Hello again. So, how do we know what we already know? And how often do we question what we already know? Or we just took that knowledge for granted? If you Google the word epistemology, you'll find that it's the study of the nature of knowledge, and it's a study of whether that source of knowledge is justifiable. So, how do we know that we need to stop when we see the stop sign? How do we know that when we see this sign is a one-way street? How do we know that this sign means recycle? And how do we know that this is a peace sign?
So, where do we go when we have a question that needs an answer? Oftentimes, we learn through our past experiences or prior experiences. Sometimes, we rely on common sense to guide us. Sometimes, we take it for granted. We are actually actively seeking for information, either in our conscious or subconscious mind. For instance, when we decide on a college major, or when we want to choose a career, we rely on past experiences or we talk to other people. And sometimes we also rely on common senses. If one is afraid of blood, he or she may think twice before pursuing a career in medicine or nursing. If somebody is not good in math, he or she may not be inclined to pursue a career in accounting. For matters like this, we also seek advice from other people, trusted friends, trusted adults, parents, teachers, etc. etc. And we can also find answers through various websites and self-help books. Oftentimes, whether we realize it or not, some of these websites and books, especially those written by experts, provide us with the starting point for our own inquiry. Sometimes, we also seek for answers through expert opinions or opinions from authority figures. If experts like physicians, nurses, epidemiologists, you name it, say that common cold is caused by kissing, we may trust those opinions. We have to be wary of experts speaking outside of their own domain knowledge. Think of a politician with no biomedical expertise declaring that marijuana is dangerous. This can be a danger to our inquiry if we are less inclined to consult further, to search further, to consult Dr. Google, Dr. Bing, whatever. We may not be able to find out the potential medical benefits of marijuana if we just merely trusted their opinions.
Oftentimes, we see in commercials where popular athletes are being used to discuss the nutritional values of their products, their snacks, their cereal, and so on. And this can pose a danger to our inquiry. This can cause us to start at the wrong point and push us into the wrong direction.
Culture is a Latin word which means cultura. It means to cultivate. Oftentimes, think about this. We cultivate our surroundings to suit our needs. Think about the different ways you do Thanksgiving within your own families, the different ways you do Christmas within your own families. These are the essential elements of culture. We also rely on culture and traditions when we try to make sense of our environment, our social world. All these values, behaviors, practices, rituals tells us about the regularities and workings of our social world and the values that guide our participation in it. Since culture and tradition are inherited, we don't have to start from scratch when we rely on culture and tradition in search of answers and clues. Sometimes we may have taken this for granted, but oftentimes we rely on agreement and belief when we try to make sense of our surroundings, our social world. We learn to form opinions by observing and talking to other people. We know or we don't know. Sometimes we also learn by trial and error. For instance, when we learn to cook, when we learn how to ride a bike, when we learn how to swim. And we also learn by trial and error when we decide on a major. After we started on a major, this may or may not work for us, and we switch major, do something more appropriate. The same for choosing a career. Oftentimes, when we learn through our past experiences, through trial and error, through our common senses, by talking to other people, or by expert knowledge, sometimes this may lead to overgeneralization, inaccuracy, selective observations, subjectivity, and the lack of knowledge in our search for knowledge. To these days, our eyes still support the belief that the earth is flat. That's what we see. But we all know it has been scientifically proven that the earth is round. We learn in our science curriculums, maybe decades ago, when we were in elementary school, middle school, high school, that the earth revolves around the sun, even though we cannot see it with our eyes. So can we be sure that the earth really revolves around the sun? So, even though we can use prior experiences, common sense, talking to other people, talking to experts, talking to authority figures, culture, traditions, to guide us in our daily life, to make sense of our daily life, have we ever questioned how we come to know what we know? As we talked about earlier, experts can err in their own specialty, and we have to be wary of experts speaking outside of their areas of expertise. So, in order to be more objective, social research or sociological inquiry can provide a more systematic way in helping us to find things out by relating data, concepts, and theories to one another. I will show you how in another lecture. And social research provides a more structured way, a more orderly way, a more coherent way, and a more logical way to search for answers or clues about our surroundings. Social research can therefore serve as a guide on how we get beyond this sure belief to real knowledge.